Hey guys, today I will show a breakdown of my most recent personal project dedicated to the autumn, and yeah, it's quite a fun project. We will be using Houdini and Cinema 4D and get this pretty good looking abstract floating result. So let's open Houdini and I will show you exact workflow to replicate this effect, this animation, and yeah, you will get something like this. Okay, so let's start with creating our leaves. So first of all, you will need to find a PNG or a JPEG image like this. So you will have your leaf shape in white and all the areas in black. So we will feed it into our trace node like here. And we will have pretty detailed, over-detailed trace of our leaf. So we will need to attach our sample node and make it less dense. After that, we will need some triangles, so we will attach the remesh node. And here you can see that we have a pretty decent triangle count here that will allow us to bend our leaf and the simulation will look natural. So after that, I would like to set the initial state of our leaf by adding the mountain node, and it will bend our leaf because in the nature you will never see fallen leaves that are perfectly flat. You can try working with these parameters and see what works for you best. And after that, we will need to initialize our UV project node. And yeah, be sure to click this initialize button, and this will make a UV map for our leaf, and we will be transforming and bending this leaf in the animation, and the texture will not go anywhere. It will stick to this shape. So after that, you can just drop a UV quick shade, and we will need to add the normals. After that, we will need to add a transform node. I'm just rotating it to the X and Y axis so it lays down just like this. And yeah, for convenience, you can just drop a null and call it your leaf 1. And yeah, basically that's our setup for leaves. You can add as much as you want. Here is one of the myrtle leaves, like this. And texture is off for this one. Yeah, let's fix it a little bit. Yeah, let's just delete it. Cool. Let me delete the textures for the rest of them, just so they look all the same. So yeah, I've added 4 leaves, as you may see here. This, and this. And now we need to set up the something that we will copy these leaves onto. So I started with a simple sphere. It's a polygon, and its frequency is set to 5. So now there's a tricky part. So we will need to introduce another attribute to each of the points of this sphere. And what we need to do, we will set the object ID, or you can call it whatever you like, but it's basically a representation of these leaves. So each of these leaf has its own ID, group ID or object ID, sorry. And each of these points also has its own ID. And what we are doing here, we are setting specific values in type float. We are setting 0, 1, 2, and 3, and we are representing the index of our leaves. So it's 0, 1, 2, and 3. This will allow us to randomly distribute the leaves onto the points here. So we will need to add a normal to our sphere, as it's a polygon. And also there is a node called orient, and this one is from the QLib. QLib is basically a pack of add-ons. You can find it on GitHub. It's not that necessary for this project, so that's why I'll just skip this for now. So now you will need to add a for each point. So what this switch and for each block actually does. In switch we have select input parameter, and basically in our case we could switch between 0, 1, 2 or 3 because we have 4 leaves here. And in this case, so we are randomly distributing this object ID parameter to every point of our sphere. And here in the for each loop, every iteration we will get one of the points, we will read the object ID parameter, not the parameter attribute, sorry, from this point, and we will feed it into the switch. And that's where we need to use the point expression function. So as you may see here, we're specifying the surface node, it's the for each, and we will specify the point number. Point number is 0 because basically for each is going through every point. The attribute, and here let me just open this WordPad, yeah. And here is the attribute name that we will be using, and the last one is the index. An index is basically used in multi-component attributes such as vectors, colors, and arrays, and our attribute is float, so it's just 0 here on the end here. So what this actually does, yeah, as I mentioned, so it goes every iteration just gets a point, it reads the attribute, sorry, it reads the object ID attribute, and basically it feeds it into the switch. And that's how the switch value becomes 0, 1, 2, or 3. And this is how we randomly distribute the leaves. Like this. So you might see that if you are not using the QLib, your sphere might look like this, but you will not use the first frames of this animation. Basically it looks good from around 15th or 30th frame so never mind about that. Okay, so now let's set up the Vellum constraints. It's cloth, but make sure that you make it really stiff. Because when I started doing this project, I set the stiffness to like 5 or 8 or 10, and it looked like silk. And actually, if you go outside and grab those fallen leaves, they are pretty stiff because they haven't let those juices. I don't know how to say it, but yeah, you got me. And yeah, after that we attach the Vellum solver. You can play with the sub-steps or constraint iterations. And here in the forces tab, you need to remove the gravity. It's minus 9.81 as I remember. By default, we don't need that. And also here in Vellum solver, I've added a pop wind. I think I've done nothing here, just a default pop wind. And after that, I've added a pop axis force, and basically what it does, it basically makes the leaves rotate in that direction. And if they will be rotating, the force will be pushing them outside. So to prevent that, I've just added a pop attract into the middle. So they are spinning, but they are not like flying away. So yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, by the way, if anyone knows the better solution to make objects just go round in circular motion, let me know in the comments. Okay, now to the fun part. You will need to cache this one, because I don't know if you are working on a nuclear PC or something very big and powerful. You might not want to cache this, but basically you drop a file cache node, you set it to write files, you set the location, and start and end frames, and just hit save to disk. And after that I set to read files, and we are good to go, and we have all the simulation just baked, and it looks really good. Okay, now in this particular project I already knew that I want some shots to be like normal speed and some shots in slow motion, just to really showcase how those leaves are performing, swirling like in zero gravity. And that's where the time blend node came to place. So here I've set the evaluation mode by speed, and initially the speed is 1. And you just keyframe this stuff. So here the speed is 1, and here it just becomes really slow. Yeah, so from the frame 150 we started decreasing speed to 0.2, and that's where we have all these slow motion things going on. So that's it. And after that you just drop a raw alembic node, and you output all your really cool falling leaves. All the simulation, just export it, and it will be ready to be shaded and lit in Cinema 4D. So let's open that. So here I've just imported the alembic. And also important thing about these groups here, when you attach groups here, those are just primitive groups, but in alembic you will have these groups as face selections, so you can attach the materials to every type of leaf individually. If you will not add these groups, basically your alembic file will be just one, not one mesh, but you will not be able to attach different materials to the different faces. So that's really necessary. So here we are with this alembic file. It's really huge. So yeah, I'm starting even from the frame 180, just to make sure that I'm already in this kind of swirly form, and not starting from the initial form when the leaves are all aligned and doesn't feel natural. So here I will link down the tutorial that I followed, and it basically became my go-to when shading the leaves. It's basically a mixed material of the glossy and diffuse material, and diffuse material has some transparency and also the scattering medium, and the glossy doesn't have that because just glossy materials doesn't have ability to transmit. Okay, and the interesting part is here. So what I've done, basically, yeah, let me just showcase these things. So basically, it's an image texture of our leaf, same as the opacity, and we are feeding it to the diffuse, we are desaturating it and feeding into the bump, and we are feeding it to the transmission channel, and also we are adding the scattering medium. And here it's just glossy, and we are doing basically the same thing, except that in glossy doesn't have any translucency, or how do you call it? Transmission, yeah, sorry, transmission. Okay, so after that you are just mixing two materials. One of them is glossy actually. And after that I've got my copper rough material and added the bump map based on the leaf texture. Basically same setup that I've used to like done the albedo map. And here we are mixing our base material with our copper material, and here is a very crucial step, because basically to make this effect of growing and copper material taking all the leaf, we are animating the low clip and brightness of the noise. So we're starting with low clip being 100% and brightness being 0. It's basically all black, and in the end we have low clip to 0 and brightness to 38. Basically you will need to play with these settings because it will depend on your objects and also on the speed of the animation or speed of the infection that you want to achieve. So that's it. And then you just create many different cameras, and you will achieve something like that.